I will now resume it. Thanks. So I will start with the IIR filter design. But before going into the IIR filter design, I will have to discuss about the analog filter design. Now the question, the obvious question you can ask is that when the subject is digital signal processing, why we should learn about the analog filter design. I will give you the answer after 5 minutes, right? But let us look at, before I explain you that why we should learn analog filter design first, and then from analog filter design, we will apply transformations to get the digital counterpart. All right. But before I explain that, let me look into the difference between the FIR filters and IIR filters, because both types of filters you can use to design low pass, high pass, band pass, and band stop filters. But as a designer, what is the difference between the two types of filters, and which filter the designer must choose? Now let us look at the differences one by one. FIR filters, system function contain only zeros. We know that, we have already discussed. IIR filter contain poles and zeros normally, right? Now FIR filters can be implemented using non-recursive or recursive structures, right? Non-recursive structures are very obvious that there will not be any feedback path, right? If you remember, I did one type of design of FIR filters, which is known as frequency sampling filter, in which the design was based on the design of a comb filter and a resonator. Now that type of design procedure will handle the recursive structures. So FIR filters can be implemented in both ways, non-recursive or recursive structures. But the best known is the non-recursive structure. To the non-recursive structure, we also call as the transversal type of structure. But in the case of IIR filters, only recursive structure is possible. The most widely used form is the cascade connection of the first and the second. We have already discussed these structures. That cascade form is most commonly used, but there are other forms like direct form 1, direct form 2, canonical, parallel. And about the latest structure, somebody was asking whether we will do it or not. I could not talk to the other faculty members, so I will talk. And I will also discuss the all pass filter, maybe not today, but maybe after today's lecture, maybe on Tuesday. All right. So there is nothing, only the transfer function has to be explained. I will explain that part. I don't have actually the slides. I forgot to do that, but I will do it on Tuesday. So I don't have that transfer function with me. But anyway, I will do it on Tuesday, no problem. So let us look now at the more differences between FIR filters and IIR filters. FIR filters have exactly linear phase response. We have been doing this for so many days now. The implication is that of this is that no phase distortion is introduced into the signal by the filter. But the phase response of IIR filters are non-linear, especially at the band edges. The effects of using a limited number of bits to implement filters such as round of noise and quantization errors, I will explain that, are much less severe in FIR than in FIR. Now, what is this limited number of bits, round of noise and quantization errors? Now what happens is, when the input is coming from some sensor, the sensor generates an analog signal, right? We then apply it to an A to D converter. A to D converter converts the samples into digital form. All right. Now, how many bits we will use to represent one sample For example, if I use 8 bits to represent one sample, or I use 10 bits, 12 bits, 14 bits, or 16 bits to represent one sample. So that means I am using some limited number of bits to represent this sample. So that is why the effects of using a limited number of bits. So that's the meaning of limited number of bits. Now comes is the quantization error or the round of noise, because whenever you are converting from the analog to the digital domain, so you are representing a sample in terms of bits. So that is corresponding to the input, even to the coefficients of the filter. Now, because whenever the input has to be multiplied with the coefficient value, right? The coefficient has also to be expressed in digital form. For example, to one coefficient, I can represent it in 8 bits or 10 bits as the input, right? So there also the limited number, the coefficient value will also be limited by the number of bits. So that's what is the meaning. That is also known as quantization. We quantize the actual coefficient value or the input value by certain number of bits. Okay, so that will lead to the quantization noise or round of noise, because we are rounding off some value. Now these effects, these are known as quantization effects, right? These effects are limited number of bits we will use. So because of these effects, there will be a noise or error which is very less severe in FIR filters than in IIR filters. But because of the quantization of the filter coefficients, what happens when you quantize the filter coefficients in case of IIR filters? What can happen is that a pole can in principle move from a position inside the unit circle to a position outside the unit circle and cause instability. So when this will happen, let us say when a pole is lying very close to the circumference of the very close to the unit circle, that means radius very close to 1. So in that case, what will happen? If we use the actual values of the coefficients, then the pole will stay there, no problem. But if we are quantizing the coefficient values, what can happen? It is not necessary that it will always happen, but it can happen because of this quantization or quantization error. A pole can, which was inside while designing, which was inside the unit circle, but it can go outside the unit circle because of this quantization. So it can lead to instability. But because these in case of FIR filters, there are no poles, so in that case it is less prone to these kind of errors or noise. All right, this is very important point actually, that actually outperforms the IIR filter over FIR filters. People use IIR filters more in some cases. Now, what is the reason? FIR requires more coefficients for sharp cutoff filters than IIR filter. For example, you are given some specifications to design a filter. Now, what will happen if you will use a FIR strategy or an IIR strategy? If you use FIR strategy, then to achieve those specifications, you require more number of coefficients. For example, if you in case of if FIR filters, if you use this FIR strategy, you may require 50 coefficients. But if you are using an IIR strategy, you may require only 10 coefficients. That is also known as the order of the filter. The order of the filter in the FIR strategy is much higher as compared to the IIR strategy. If the order of the filter is higher, in that case the complexity of the system will be higher to achieve the same set of specifications. But IIR filters are more prone to instability, but if you can control the system in a in an efficient way so that the poles do not move outside the unit circle, then IIR gives fewer, using the IIR strategy, the filter order requirements are reduced. So that's what is the explanation of this point. FIR requires more coefficient. Thus, for a given amplitude response specification, more processing time and storage will be required for FIR implementation. So that is actually the complexity level, whereas it will be less in the case of IIR. Complexity is proportional to the length of the impulse response. Length of the impulse response means number of coefficients. All right. So that's what I was trying to explain. So no direct relationship between the complexity and the length of the impulse, which is infinite by definition. Filters with high selectivity can be realized with relatively low complexity in the case of IIR filters. Now, now comes the other part, which I was actually trying to explain, seeing my introductory slide. FIR filters have no analog counterpart. We have while designing the, how did we design FIR filters? We use the window method, we use the frequency sampling method to design FIR filters. But we did not look at the analog counterparts because FIR filters have no analog counterpart. We have to design digitally the FIR filters. We cannot take advantage of the previously researched and existing analog filter design in case of FIR filters. FIR design procedures are normally iterative procedures. Design equations do not exist. In the case of, that's what I was trying to say, that design equations do not exist means that the people who were researching on the filter design from the last century, because the digital technology was not there, but the filters were there. So in the case of FIR filters, we cannot use, we don't have any pre-existing or analog filters which we can make use to design FIR filters. We have to design these filters afresh. But in the case of IIR filters, we can study the pre-existing analog filters which are actually existing. The full theory and the explanation exists. So now, if we study those analog filters, how to get the digital counterpart, we will use transformations. We will quickly use the analog transfer function formula to transfer into digital domain by using certain transformations. We will see that that's what is the design of IIR filters that we will study. Analog filters can be readily transformed into equivalent IIR digital filters meeting similar specifications. IIR filters can be designed using design formulas. All right. So these were some of the differences between the FIR filters and IIR filters. Now, let us look at the analog filter design. We will study analog filter design, and we will then apply very efficient transformations like impulse invariant method or bilinear transformation to design the digital filter, digital IIR filters, right? Now, a very important approach to the design of digital filters is to apply a transformation to an existing analog filter. Now, these we know that commonly used type of filters are low pass, high pass, band pass, and band stop filters. So these are the characteristics of the low pass, high pass, band pass, and band stop. We all know these things. These are the ideal characteristics of the low pass, high pass, band pass, and band stop. And we also know that what is a pass band. If an input sinusoid is not attenuated or attenuated less than a specific tolerance value, as it goes through the system, it is said to be in a passband of the filter. If some frequency component is not attenuated or attenuated to a very attenuated less than a specific tolerance value, so that will be, it is said to be in a passband. For example, this lower frequency is being passed, right? So this is passband, and these frequencies may be stopped. So the stop band corresponds to the high frequencies. We all know these things, nothing very okay. Now let us look at briefly the S plane. We know about the Z plane. We have done the pole zero diagram, but let us briefly look at the S plane, because in your previous chapters, one topic is mentioned, the passive filters. So I will do one filter, but actually these passive filters or analog filters will be covered in great detail in your linear integrated LICA course, which is analog filter design. But I will certainly do, I will look at the characteristics of the filters, right? But let us briefly look at what is S plane. Filters have a frequency dependent response. Now these filters, analog filters or passive filters, will be designed using components like resistance, using components like inductor or capacitor. That is why the filters will be known as the passive filters, because they are being designed, they can be designed from the passive components. But in our subject, the filters will be designed using DSP processors or microcontrollers digitally, right? But as I said, we have to study this analog characteristics, analog salient features of analog filters, and then we will apply the transformation. So for that, let us look at the S plane. Because filters will be designed from a resistance, inductor and capacitor, so therefore filters have a frequency dependent response, because the impedance of a capacitor or an inductor changes with frequency. We know that the capacitor impedance, inductor impedance is omega L, S is equal to J omega. So you can very well understand the impedance of the inductor is SL, impedance of the capacitor is 1 over SC. So the frequency component is there. So therefore the impedance will also vary. So therefore the frequency characteristics will also vary. Now what is S here? S is given by sigma plus J omega. Sigma corresponds to the transients in the system and omega is the frequency, right? Now what happens is, by using standard circuit analysis techniques, this I'm talking about the analog filter design. I will very briefly talk about this. Let us look at this circuit. This is an inductor, this is capacitor, this is resistance. So this is an RLC circuit, this is a passive filter, all right? Now this, by using the standard circuit analysis techniques, the transfer function of the filter can be developed. These techniques include Ohm's law, Kirchhoff's voltage law, current laws, superposition, and remembering that the impedances are complex. The transfer equation is then, this is a general transfer equation which we used in the digital filter introductory design, introductory portion also. Now if we use this equation, if we use this circuit, right? So how can we, using the same principles like Ohm's law, Kirchhoff's voltage law, I can get V naught by V in equal to RCS divided by LCS square plus RCS plus 1. So this is the transfer function I can easily obtain if I use this circuit. No need to panic about the circuit, because we will not do this circuit, just an introductory portion, so that you must know from where these transfer functions will come, because these components exist in the environment from the last centuries. The digital technology has come now, so therefore what I want to say is that the analog filter design, the filter design concept is quite an old concept. So we will use this concept to apply, and then we will use the digital techniques to implement the filters. Now if we have this kind of circuit, RLC circuit, I can get the transfer function easily using these basic principles. HS is equal to V naught by Vn, RCS LCS square plus RCS plus 1. All right. Now if I use these values, the inductor value as 10 millihenry, 10 microfarad and 10 ohms, if I use these values in this expression, So I will get this Hs equal to 10 to the power 3 into S by S square plus 10 cube S plus 10 to the power 7. So this is basically the transfer function of this system. So if this is the transfer function of the system, having the numerator polynomial and the denominator polynomial, of course this is in S domain. This is not in Z domain. This is in S domain, right? Factoring the equation, if I factor the denominator equation, I will, because this is a quadratic equation, I will get 2 roots of the equation. So when I get the 2 roots of the equation, I will get 2 complex roots. So these 2 roots will be basically the poles of the system. And the system has got 1 0 also, right? And this 10 to the power 3 is basically the gain of the system. Now, if I plot these, if I plot the S plane, right? This is the real part, which is sigma. This is measured, this is Neper frequency measured in Neper per second, and this is radians per second. Because what is S? Let me explain this. Okay, S is given by sigma plus j omega. Now sigma is the Neper frequency in Nepers per second, and omega is the angular frequency in radians per second. Sigma is basically related to the transients in the system. All right. So if we take this system, if we analyze this system, we get this transfer function. And after factoring the characteristic equation, we will get 2 poles. Now the pole positions are, one pole exists here, 3.122 plus minus 0.5 plus j 0.3122 and minus j 0.31. So 2 poles, 2 complex conjugate pair of poles exist, and 1 0 at origin. So that's what this the roots of this characteristic equation will give us. All right, and the pole, if the poles lie on the left hand side of the S plane, then the system is stable. When the because we will take this axis, how do we go from S domain to Z domain? We take the imaginary axis, we roll the imaginary axis to join this point and this point. That will form a circle, that will form basically a unit circle. That means all the area on the left side of this imaginary axis will go inside the unit circle, and all the area which is on the right side of the imaginary axis will go outside the unit circle. So that is why we say that if the poles lie inside the unit circle, that will lead to a stable filter. And in the S plane, corresponding to the S plane, we say that if the poles lie on the left hand side of the S plane or the imaginary axis, then the system is stable. So this is just one example of passive filter design. I will not discuss more about the passive filter design, right? This was just a concept required to be discussed because it was mentioned in your syllabus. So we can, for different types of filters, we can obtain the HS. What is HS? HS is the transfer function of the analog filter design. What is S? S we know that sigma plus j omega. Now, let us look at some of the important points. A transfer function mathematically expresses the frequency domain input to output behavior of a filter. Okay, we can write a transfer function in terms of the variable S. These we already know all these things. The stop band frequency, we know all these parameters, no need to. Now the steepness of the filter is defined as the order of the filter, which is determined also by the number of poles in the transfer function. A pole is a root of the denominator, conversely a 0 is a root of the numerator. Each pole gives a minus 6 dB per octave in the slope, right? And minus 20 dB per decade. I will explain this part. A pole corresponds to a corner frequency. I will explain this part in the coming slide. I have one very good slide. Probably you will be able to understand that from there. Now, the technique used to design analog filters. So please remember that this is to be understood. This slide has to be understood, right? When I say that, I will say now 2 points. First point is that I will use analog filters to design digital filters using transformations. Okay, so that's the first point. What is the second point? I will design analog filters, of course, but I will design a low pass filter, a prototype low pass filter. I must read here, the technique used to design analog filters is to specify a prototype low pass filter function, which is normalized to provide a cutoff frequency omega c. I will explain that at 1 radian per second, and then apply transformations to achieve the actual desired cutoff frequencies and filter time. I will come back to this slide to explain, but let me go to the next slide first. Okay, before I can make certain description about this, the description says that what you will do, you will start your design from a prototype low pass filter function, okay, with a cutoff frequency, with a normalized cutoff frequency. What is the meaning of normalized cutoff frequency? When because when you take the ratio of frequency divided by cutoff frequency, I will explain the normalization from the formula in the next slide, right? Because that will be better. What I will do is I will start the design from a prototype low pass filter. It will be a prototype. I will create a prototype low pass filter with a certain cutoff frequency. Then I will use that prototype to design any other low pass filter with any other frequency. Okay, I will design a prototype low pass filter with a certain cutoff frequency. I will use it as a prototype filter. Then I will use that prototype to design any other low pass filter with any other cutoff frequency. So that's point. And I will also use the prototype low pass filter to design high pass filter also, band pass filter also, band stop filter also. So what is the strategy? The strategy is to design a prototype low pass filter function first, and then I will use that prototype to design any other low pass filter function with different cutoff frequencies, or even high pass, band pass, and band stop. So that's the strategy, but the prime consideration will be given to low pass filter design. I will explain it more in more detail. Okay, so let us now, what is this? This is the ideal brick wall filter. What is a brick wall filter? Brick wall filter is an ideal low pass filter. Ideal low pass filter is known as a brick wall filter with I will use now this omega, big capital omega as the frequency, because I am dealing in analog domain now. Please remember that I am not using small omega because I am designing the analog. I am talking about the analog filters. So therefore I will use this capital omega. I will make the corrections in the previous slides also. I will use capital omega as the as I am dealing with the analog frequency design first. When I will use transformations to get the digital filter, I will tell you, and I will change then the frequency capital omega to small omega. But at present I am using capital omega because I am referring to analog filter design. So what is an ideal brick wall filter? Ideal brick wall filter is this ideal low pass filter having frequency response as 1 and this cutoff frequency. Why this cutoff frequency is 1 here? Because this is capital omega subscript c, right? So it is normalized. The whole, what is the meaning of normalization? When I say that the frequency axis is normalized, what do I mean by that? I mean by that all the frequencies on the frequency axis are divided by cutoff frequency. That is the meaning of normalization. If this is the frequency axis defined by capital omega, so if I divide all the frequencies by omega subscript c, that means the cutoff frequency. So this is known as the normalized frequency axis. This point, which is showing 1, this point is basically the cutoff frequency. That means this point corresponds to omega c, capital omega c. So when I divide this frequency by omega c, I get 1. So that is why this 1 is there. This is the normalized cutoff frequency. What is the meaning of normalization? Normalization means I divide the whole frequency axis by cutoff frequency. Then I say that my frequency axis is normalized. Since this point is actually the cutoff frequency, and when I will divide by omega c, I will get 1 here. So the ideal brick wall low pass filter prototype is one which has a unit amplitude frequency response from DC. From DC, DC means omega equal to 0 to 1 radian per second. Why this 1 radian per second is there? Because this is normalized frequency with response dropping to 0 thereafter. So this is an ideal brick wall filter or ideal low pass filter. Correct? So I take this as the low pass filter prototype, and I will start my design from this point onward. Now this brick wall filter may be defined. How can we define the squared magnitude transfer function for this brick wall filter? I can define this as h of j omega, h of minus j omega. Minus j omega is the complex conjugate. These two are the complex conjugate of each other, and they lead to h j omega whole square, right? So this is the squared magnitude response, and this is given by 1 over 1 plus f. F is a function of what? Omega square. F is a function of omega square. All right. Now, how this function 1 over 1 plus f omega square explains the brick wall filter? Let us look at that. This f omega square is equal to 0 from 0 to 1, from omega going from 0 to 1. And so what is the meaning? When f omega square is equal to 0, what does it mean? H j omega square is equal to 1. So that's what is said. When from 0 to 1, it is f of omega square is equal to 0. Therefore, it is 1. But it is infinity for omega greater than 1, meaning by if it is infinity in the denominator, it will be infinity. The overall magnitude squared response will be 0. So this ideal brick wall low pass filter prototype characteristics can be explained with this formula 1 over 1 plus f omega square. All right. Now, f omega square is a polynomial in omega square. Very correct. F omega square is equal to limit n tends to infinity omega raised to the power 2n. This is the mathematical manipulation that we can do, that f omega square will be given by limit n approaches infinity of omega raised to the power 2n, where n approaches to infinity. Now, must satisfy the lower condition in 2, because what should be, the question is that if it is 1 over 1 plus f omega square, what should be f omega square? So actually I'm coming to the Butterworth, the scientist who discovered an approximation to this polynomial. He was Butterworth, and on the name of Butterworth, this type of filter design that I am proceeding further is known as Butterworth filter. how will I design the Butterworth filter? I will start from a low pass brick wall, low pass filter, and I wrote the squared magnitude transfer function. The question now is, people who were thinking about how to solve it further, then they were thinking about what should be f omega square. Now, f omega square should be such that it must satisfy this condition, right? Now, this limit n approaches to infinity, omega raised to the power 2n is a limit which satisfies this condition. Mathematically, we can prove that. Okay, but if we use this limit, it is not practically feasible to form a polynomial of this type, because the n requirement is infinity. We need the value of n to be infinity, right? Infinity order required. If we use infinity, then only we can satisfy this condition. So it was not practically possible. Then came Butterworth. Therefore, we cannot use this limit because it is not practically feasible. So we must do some approximations to this polynomial so that the approximation should satisfy very close to this condition. All right. Therefore, approximations to f omega square are made. The approximation for f omega square due to Butterworth is given by omega raised to the power 2n. Rather than using this limit n tends to infinity, I use omega raised to the power 2m as the approximation to this polynomial. Now, if I use, and this approximation is given by Butterworth, that is why the filter design that we will proceed further is known as Butterworth filter design. So we use this approximation in place of f omega square. We get h of j, which is a squared magnitude response, is equal to 1 over 1 plus omega raised to the power 2n. After using this approximation given by Butterworth, correct? Now, since the square of hj omega is equal to 1 over 1 plus omega raised to the power 2n, if I take the square of, that means this is 1 over 1 plus omega raised to the power 2n under root, where n is a positive integer, right? This is the magnitude response. Now, let us come to the design of low pass Butterworth filter, which I was calling as the prototype filter. How, I repeat once again, how did I start? I start from a brick wall filter. I started from a brick wall filter, brick wall low pass filter. I wrote the magnitude squared response in terms of f omega square. I was looking for what should be this f omega square which should satisfy this condition. I got one formula, but not practically feasible because I require an order of infinity. Then Butterworth came, and Butterworth gave an approximation. That is why this type of design is known as Butterworth filter design. And he approximated f omega square equal to omega raised to the power 2n. From there on, because of the Butterworth approximation, this formula has come, which is the magnitude response of what? Of ideal brick wall filter. Okay, now what is the meaning of normalization? I told you the whole frequency axis, all the frequencies will be divided by omega c, which is the cutoff frequency. That's what I will be doing here. This is the magnitude response I got. This omega, this capital omega, is actually a variable. The x-axis variable, the x-axis frequency variable, and this is minded. This capital omega is analog frequency because I am dealing with analog filters. I will then come to digital filters after applying the transformation, but let us not talk about that at present. Right? This capital omega is a variable, the x-axis variable of frequency. when I divide this omega variable by omega c. What is omega c? The cutoff frequency of the low pass filter. Then then this capital omega divided by omega c, this process or this is known as normalization. A normalized Butterworth filter of order n is defined by this. This is not normalized, equation number 4 is not normalized because the frequency is not divided by omega c. But when I divide the frequency by omega c, the equation results in equation number 5. Equation 4 is turned into equation number 5. This equation is known as normalized Butterworth filter. What is this filter? This is a low pass filter. This is the equation of a low pass filter. Normalized Butterworth filter equation. Okay. Now the following properties can be easily described. Hj omega square is equal to 1 for all n. When this variable becomes equal to omega c, this becomes 1 over 2. That means the power. This basically the squared magnitude response is basically the power. The normal Hj omega, the mod of Hj omega is corresponding to the voltage. The mod of Hj omega square corresponds to power, right? So when this variable is equal to omega c, then this becomes half. Hj omega square at omega equal to omega c is equal to half for all n. That is why, because at that point, when it becomes half, what happens? This omega becomes equal to omega c. When omega becomes equal to omega c, that means the cutoff frequency. So those points are basically we take as the half power points because the power goes to half. And those points are also known as -3 dB points. We will come to that. Hj omega square is monotonically decreasing function of omega. So it is a monotonic function, decreasing function. As n gets larger, the magnitude response approaches ideal low pass frequency response, because here we have made the approximation. This is an approximation made to the actual filter, actual brick wall filter. So when, of course, when n value gets larger, it will go as close as possible to the original or the ideal value. Hj omega square is maximally flat at the origin, since all order derivatives exist with respect to omega and 0 at the. Basically, this wants to say that we will look into the detail what this line means. The Butterworth filters will give a maximally flat response in the passband. We will look into that, no problem. Okay. So this is my equation of the Butterworth filter. This is the squared magnitude response, and this is given by 1 over 1 plus omega by omega c raised to the power 2n. I think I will explain more. I will use this power series expansion to get the design further. Maybe I will discuss in the next lecture. All right. I hope I have been able to give you an idea of how to start the design process of IIR filters, right? But we will discuss these things in more detail. If any questions are there, then you can ask questions, because we have around 2-3 minutes. Otherwise, I will end the lecture, and I will continue with the lecture in the on Tuesday in the next class. Or if any questions will be there, you can use your emails or in a chat or whatever the way you will like. I'm always available to answer questions. No problem. Okay, then I will close the session, and we will meet next time. And I will once again look into all the slides, and we will discuss the filter design, IIR filter design process in little more detail. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you.